Good afternoon to our viewers. I'm Stephen Olexy. This is our brand new podcast, Inspire Me. This has been something in the making for quite many years and has come to fruition the last few months through my own adversity. And today I'm very honoured to have a very special guest on, Andy Woodward.
Good to see you.
Obviously, we go back.
We do.
Which is quite ironic. Andy has got a very inspirational story of pushing through some absolutely crazy adversity in one of the most harrowing sexual abuse situations that have ever occurred in the football world. Andy, So I'm honoured to have you on today. Obviously, we're just going to let it flow, see how we get on. Obviously, we can't wait to hear your story and your version of events. Before we get on, let's let the viewers know what we were. Together at Halifax Town playing professional football.
Yeah, I mean, we were just talking before, and the big thing that I, sit right now.
Yeah.
And this is the now, and you look at past. I do believe in, our paths of life.
Yes.
And I believe in synergy, and I believe in the universe, and there's no coincidence how we're back here after so many years of so much that's happened for both of us in our lives. And, the fact that we played at Halifax together all those years ago, that was back in 2000. That's 24 years ago.
What is that, 24?
24 years. And it's took that long for us to loop round and come together again.
Yeah.
And I don't believe in coincidences, and we're here today, and we're both here smiling, and we're both here ready to go.
A very special time for me was that in 2000. Obviously, I signed professional under Paul Bracewell. We both played under Paul Bracewell. Very influential manager to be at Halifax Town. Very high profile.
Yeah.
He came to such a club. We were at the depths, weren't we, at the time of Division 3. But I always remember being 17, 18-year-old, and you was the senior pro at the time, weren't you?
Right.
And I looked up to you. You looked after me. So it was such a crazy thing for me to be in the first team at 17, 18 years of age.
Yeah.
But that time we were just losing every week, weren't we?
Absolutely.
It was so stressful.
It's funny. It's like you say that. I was a senior sort of pro there, and I remember you well. You were a cheeky little one. I remember all the little games you used to play and stuff.
Throwing leaves on your car. And
absolutely, yeah. But you engaged with the team, and you showed maturity at that age.
Yes.
And as a player, I thought you were going to go on to much bigger things, to be fair.
I did.
Yeah, and, it just, the way football is, it just is the way it is, isn't it? But you're a cracking little player.
Yeah, it was a great time, and I've got a lot of fond memories of them times. We had such a good team, and like you say, things happen. I got a couple of injuries and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, Andy, so that's the intro.
Yeah.
Can you take us back to the beginning of your story, and then let's just, hear your version of events and get out your...
it's a story. Well, it's not a story, it's a truth,
Yes.
And I don't tend to say story because truth is truth, and I mean, the world's already probably seen some of it, but, I always like to revert back to the very start. And as I said before about universe and, paths of life and the synergy of, why we're here. And there's times in my life where I've said, am I cursed? And I've said it before on a certain podcast, but, when you look back at life and what we're given in our lives, mine goes back to be before I was born. Yeah. And that was 1971 in October. And my mum was... she was only like 21 then, I think, maybe 22, 21. And her sister was a lady called Linda Stewart. And it was in Manchester and on Kingsway. And it was one evening and she was going to see her boyfriend, 9 months pregnant. And she left the pub and she left a friend and she walked down the main Kingsway. And people that are from Manchester will know that it's the main road into Manchester. And she got down the road and then there was a man waiting for her on a wall, not for her but any woman that walked past, and he dragged her into the back garden and raped and murdered her. She was 9 months pregnant, and the police at the time, it was a huge story, and my mum's whole world caved in, and my dad, and the family. But the detective was fantastic, and it's in a CSI book now, and they caught the offender for it, and that offender, his name was Ronald Bennell.
Wow.
Now, Ronald Bennell went on to murder again, and he murdered again 2 miles from my mother's house. And that happened during the time, well, after I'd been, the things that happened to me as a child. But that word Bennell is rippled through our family before I was even born.
It's crazy. So that was obviously
Yes.
connection to Barry.
It was his cousin.
So that's like the start of...
That was the start of...
And that's before you're even born?
That was before I was born.
That's just crazy.
She then had my older sister called, and she named her Linda after Linda. And then obviously had myself and my younger sister, Louise. And through life, my childhood was, my mum and dad didn't have any money. I was on a council estate, and we literally lived at my nana's for a good couple of years, because they'd lost the house and everything. And then the house came up in Chilium, which was a council house, and Chilium's quite an affluent area, but there's a council estate there, and it was like royalty for us, getting a council house in Chilium. But as my childhood goes, it was, my mum and dad were so protective of me, and you can imagine, the loss that my mum had, by a stranger. They were both really protective of us, but they were very soft-natured as parents. And football was my life from a very young age. It's always what I wanted to do, and I was good at it.
What age would you say you started,
I was kicking the ball against the wall, 6, 7, I was literally, the ball I carried it everywhere with me and things like that. But then I played for Stockport Boys under 10s, and I'd say that decision was, again, there was a cross path there, because 2 days before my trial, my sister Linda, she got run over by a car, and she got hit, and at first my mum and dad thought she died, and she'd broken her leg, or she'd damaged her leg and knocked a tooth out, and I was crying, and I didn't want to go to this trial. And Bennell had seen me at Stockport Boys and asked to go for the trial, and lo and behold, you look at paths of life, if I hadn't have gone,
that's crazy, none
of this would have happened, but it was meant to be.
So what was it? So what was that trial? It was just basically. Did they advertise that? Or?
No. He'd been to watch, and that's what his MO was. His method, really.
So he'd go round Sunday League level,
all Stockport Boys, right. Runcorn Boys, Liverpool Boys, all the Northwest. The town teams, and then he was building a team, because he'd do that previously. He'd have a team running for 4 years, and then he'd start a new one up from the age of 10. So we'd lose interest in the players at around 14. So we'd set a new team up of 10. So it was on a 4-year cycle. So we were setting this new team up under 10s, and lo and behold, I, ended up training at Platt Lane at City, and it was I'd say it was the first few weeks, really. And what he'd do is, I know this now because I'm a master at it, but he'd check out the parents, he'd check out the boys, he'd look at the most vulnerable ones, as in the quiet ones or the less from their backgrounds, etc., and he'd check the parents. So my mum and dad were really quite soft, as being that, even though they're so protective, because they wouldn't even let me out of the sights as a young child, but he'd seen that, and he'd seen the vulnerability. He'd also seen, I'll talk about it later, but he'd also seen that I had an elder sister. And I'm a decent...
What would you class as an elder sister at that point?
So
when you went to that trial...
When I was at that trial, my sister she's only 18 months older than me, so she'd have been like 12, 11. That's unbelievable. But he'd already recognised that, because his MO, he did that for years previous to me as well.
So when you was at that trial, what's your first impression of him? Where did he just appear? Or
yeah, he just appeared on the side, and
can you actually remember that moment though, where you're thinking who is this guy? He's been a bit nice.
No, because we were told that there was going to be a scout there. Lo and behold, did I know it was going to be Barry Bennell? No.
And is he all branded up Man City?
Yes, he had the blue coat on, the Man City coat,
so it's like
blue tracksuit. His card showed Man City.
So to you guys, the boys, he's like the god, isn't he?
Yes, absolutely. And everyone was talking about it. I remember, you know, when you have trauma also and you can relate back to it, you have the ability to, it's like a video, you can go back as though you were there. And I can do that now, but I can detach the emotional side of that from my childhood. And many people can't do that, unfortunately. But I can see it now. And I can see him at the side, and I know the exact side he was at. And I was nervous because I knew somebody was watching. Little did I know it was going to be him. And so he'd form this team, and we'd start training, and he'd started, I'd say we were 3 or 4 weeks, and he turned around and he said to my parents, you know, for Andy's career, it'd enhance him if he started to stay at my house at the weekend, because he can come to games, he can come and watch Man City, you know, the usual start of the grooming of the parents. My mum and dad were like, they were a bit reserved, but this is what I know now. But as a child, I was like, yeah, I'll go, because he was the Pied Piper. He was amazing with the football. You could see what he was doing. You know, me as a child, it was like, wow, this man is amazing. Because things he could do with the football were like something that you'd never seen. Ball on his head, he could flick it on his shoulders, he could do everything. And that was part of his MO as well. But then within 3 or 4 weeks, started staying at his house with another young player. And I'd say it was only the second weekend, go to his house, and it was like a TARDIS of fruit machines, the usual, a pool table, big fish tank. He had all the video games, he had the lot. He had a big dog, he had a monkey upstairs, pet monkey. Yeah, so it's the heaven.
And how old was he at this point?
Oh, he'd been in he was the same age as my mum. So he was born in 52. So, you know, he was in his late 20s or whatever, 30 or whatever. And it started pretty instantaneously. And he just, you know, got me in his bed with another player. And then it's like, follow me, his favourite little saying. So everything he did, I had to do.
That's absolutely
and that was just the start. And then it started from then, and it was every single weekend. But for me, you know, it didn't take him long with me, because one of the players stopped staying. And my parents, you know, asked me if everything was okay, and I was like, yeah. But I knew, you know, even from the start, I started to go quieter in myself. You know, it was a hidden secret. He'd also throw his weight around, show how powerful he was, throw Chinese darts at me, you know, the crosses, like, doof, the stars at me, you show the nunchucks. He'd do this with his tongue, I'll hit you if I have to, you know, and that fear as a 10-year-old, that just went, everything was out there then. And then
you're a 10-year-old at that point.
I know. Wow. I know.
I've read your book, Andy, and it's, you know, the detail in the book is something that I'll never ever forget. Like,
no,
but
it was relentless, you know, and that went on for years, you know. And there's times where I think there was only once that I told him not to, and that was on Christmas Day. And then I think we played Boxing Day, and he dropped me from the team, made me stay on the side, and then said to me, "Don't ever do that again." And the fear, you know, fear as a child is phenomenal.
So were there any urges to tell your parents or somebody, or was it just pure and utter grit fear?
Grit fear. But because he'd also groomed my family. So he used to turn up out of the blue and come for tea and stuff like that. My mum and dad were very caring and like, oh, you can have some tea if you want. And he'd sit there and smile at me and smirk at me, wink at me, you know, all that sort of stuff. And I was frightened to death of him. But also, when it came down to football, it was just like my dream. So I was living in two worlds, the dark and the light, and literally that. And when it went dark, I used to cry because I used to know what was coming. But that was every single weekend. And then it started to be, oh, we can stay at our house, my house in the week. So I'd hardly be at school. And back then, there wasn't the truancy and light. Now it was, oh, he's not well, and then stay a week there. And every single night, it was the same. It was like Groundhog Day, Groundhog Day, Groundhog Day. You know, and that went on for 4 years initially. Of you add your maths up.
God, I can't even imagine.
And that's truth. You had your maths up there. And also it was like having to go to school when I went. I was kind of reserved and quieter. And I've spoke to people from school now and they say they could see it now, but at the time they had no idea. And that just was... I don't want to go into too much detail because it can affect people, but it says it in itself.
It's mind-blowing. And I mean, how did you get through those days at school and all the other elements of your life, having that inside you? I mean, how do you function? Were you known as a very unhappy kid, or did you still have...
No.
Did it still pop out in and out?
I think many people that have been in my scenario, and there's no difference in once or 1,000 times. Once it's happened, it's trauma. But when you're in so much fear, and that can also be in, you're talking here about marriages and relationships and stuff like that, partners in fear. But that fear is so immense that on the outside world, you learn to put a face on. I had that many masks that I'd learned to do, but on the inside, nobody knew, only myself. And it is a living nightmare.
And like you say, there's many, many, many others that have gone through that situation, isn't there? And they come out later in life when it's just unbearable.
And many don't. Yeah.
I can't even imagine.
So, the level of abuse was at its highest level. There isn't anything that didn't happen to me. And that carried on really till I think I was 14, and then it sort of... He'd start having the younger lads around, but he'd still do it to me. But then he'd start a new batch.
So you would be there when he was bringing the younger lads in?
Yeah.
And what was your thoughts on that? Did you feel like you needed to protect them, or were you just still in so much fear that you didn't?
There was so much fear, even... And the thing is, through those 4 years, I witnessed many of the team that I played in. But what he'd do with them, and I know this sounds like... Ugh, but he'd just go and play with them. And that was just a little bit of play on the side. But he'd have me in the bed at night to do what he needed to do. So that was relentless as well. So he'd just flit off, or in the other bedroom, or in the dorms where we were staying. And I knew exactly what he was doing. But I also knew, so I'd lay there trembling, knowing I knew what was coming to me. And it was I used to get jealous of them, because I used to think, and I know this sounds ridiculous, but I used to think, well, they're getting away with it. Even though things were happening, they're getting away with it. I'm going to take the full whack.
Yeah.
And that's how I felt. And I did get bullied as well in the team, because it was like, oh, he's your favourite. Oh, Barry loves you and all this sort of thing. Yeah, he told me numerous times that he did.
So this is 14, 15 now, obviously coming into that,
started to develop.
That age, mind's going, you're thinking, getting towards that apprentice age as well. So what's happening at that stage? Did he start to back off?
Yeah, and around that stage as well. So when I was 13, what he actually did, I was at Butlins and he pulled me aside and all the other players were walking on, and he took me down a dark alley and he threatened me and he said, I'll kill you, what I'm going to say, if you say anything. And he said that him and my sister were more than friends. Now, what he'd got her cleaning at his house. Unbeknown to me, he'd formed a relationship with her. But he said he'd kill me if I said anything. So I used to have to watch that and not say a word. So you see the power he had. It was phenomenal.
To do that to his sister as well, though.
Yeah.
And how did she cope with that?
She never said a word to me.
No.
We never spoke about it.
Nothing. She spoke about it since?
Yeah.
And he did the same to her, sort of like under a spell?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But then, I thought I was going to get away with it, because I thought, right now, I hate to say this, but there's younger players here now. I can start to breathe a little bit and try and play me football. But lo and behold, the first time in his history, he then decides to be youth coach for my team. So I had him from 16 to 18. And it was like, are you for real? So then it was like 15. I think it was 15, 16. he then made it clear that he was in a relationship with Linda. It was too late. She was 17, and then she got pregnant. And then they moved into a house.
Pregnant with him?
Yes.
Wow.
And then they got married.
They got married?
Yes. And there's a picture of me there, and I look down and some of the younger boys are below. His best man was one of the players' dads who he'd abused. It's something of a horror film. That picture is a horror film in itself, because I knew the younger players at the front had been abused or were being abused. There was me, there was some of my mates from football. Abuse, right the way across.
It's just a monster, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just absolutely
incomprehensible. Yeah, so and the last time he touched me, it was in his lounge, and I was 16, and for the grace of God, and my sister still doesn't recollect it, but she came down and opened the door, and she saw something. And that's never been discussed. Well, it has, but Linda can't remember it, but that was the last time. That was game over.
Wow.
So
after that moment, then it sort of tapered off. You're harbouring all this horrificness.
Yeah.
So how did you manage to still focus, though, to get your dream of being a professional and stuff?
I suppose when I used to have, like, I know now from the trauma, I used to have anger built up inside me. So if a coach was on with the team and talking around everybody, I'd feel this like urge to just run over and smack the coach.
Honestly.
Yeah, it was just like inside me, I used to tremble. But I'm a soft-natured person, but that was all that built up inside me. But I never did anything, obviously. But I just sort of focused on trying to just keep going. And I put that many faces on that I was quite a master at it. And I just wanted to play football. And I made it, obviously, but, you know, I was a good player.
I know you was.
Sol Campbell
very, very good
spoke about me to Tom when he wrote my book, and he said, I only remember Andy as the player. Yeah.
But I remember you from...
I was damaged.
Just at Halifax, and I know that's your back end.
Yeah, that was when I was proper damaged.
Just relaxed on the ball, playing it out from the back.
Yeah, and it's like, I look back at the class of 92 and all them, we used to beat them 6-0, and no word of a lie, I'm not anybody of any ego, but I was that good.
So you played against the Beckhams and all that?
Yeah,
What age was that? What age was that at?
We used to play them at 14, 15, 16.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. At that time, could you see anything special about them that obviously they went on to do the class?
Yeah, because they were...
You could see the bond they had.
The irony with it is when you think of it, and I know it's just Crewe and United, but we were beating them 6-0. And you've got a team of probably 8 of that team been abused or being abused. And you've got a team that were playing like that. And they went on because of Ferguson, and they went on to better things. But you also don't know what was going on there.
That's absolutely unbelievable. It's just a total different world, isn't it?
And it was a very scary world then when we were young kids. Yeah. Scary.
Do you reckon that it was going on at many other clubs as well?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. And I've proven that. Yeah. I've proven that, and I said it in the first interview, and we'll go back to me as a child, but my first interview, I said on Victoria, Derbyshire, I said there was a ring of them, because I'd put it all together. I'd spent many years. And lo and behold, Southampton, we went to Southampton Cup, Portsmouth Cup, Norwich Cup, Chelsea, Celtic. I go on. And paedophiles were all convicted at those clubs since I broke the story. So I wasn't wrong.
Absolutely madness. And did you find, obviously, fast forward into when you eventually revealed to the world in 2016, did you find a lot of them players came out of the woodwork?
Yeah. There was a lot, a hell of a lot.
Just contacting you privately and stuff like that?
It was, I mean, we'll jump forward if you want. When I broke the story, I said that this is massive, and even I didn't realise how big it'd go.
Let's just go back one sec. So you're harbouring all this, you know, unbelievable and adversity and trauma. You've had a very successful football career. You know, obviously the clubs you played at were fantastic. So at what point did you feel that the world needed to do it? Was there like a tipping point where you thought, I need to start getting this out, or was that happening? I think even playing for like at Halifax, and
you know, you bang on there because
you getting to a point where I think I just need to get this out, or were you just?
I tell you what, it was a pure fight against myself to just keep going. The significance around it was, you know, when I was about 18, 19, you know, and many people that have had this kind of thing will resonate with it. Whether it's male or female, is when you suffer from child abuse, you tend to question your sexuality. You can go off on tangents, you know, and some people turn to crime, some people turn to drugs, some people turn to drink, some people have relationship issues, sex issues, you name it. With me, it was all I ever wanted was to be loved by someone, and somebody put their arms around me and protect me, because I couldn't turn to my parents, so I went for. You know, and before I knew it, I was in relationship after marriage, after marriage, after marriage, kids, and it was just a whirlwind for years. But in 1997, when I was at Barry, he'd been arrested in America. They were flying him over. He'd done a 4-year sentence in Florida. And I gave an affidavit for him.
So he actually got put in jail in America?
Yeah, he did, yeah.
Did he? 4 years?
Yeah, he got 4 years.
And
because a player spoke up who'd been in America and flew back and told the police what had happened to him and being touched, and he got done in America.
And Andy,
but my sister still stuck by him.
Wow, that's unreal.
And I kept my mouth shut even then, because I knew my football career would just go like that. I knew in my head, because as soon as I spoke out, it's going to devastate my family, my sister, rip them all apart, rip my life up. And I knew that. But then the police started badgering me, kept turning up. They wouldn't leave me alone because they knew I had the key, because he was married to my sister. And people had said, well, Andy stayed there all the time. He lived there. Eventually, my nephew, Corey, was 8, and he was in the lounge, and he caught me off guard because he turned up out of the blue. And then basically I turned round and I said, yes, it happened. And by saying that, I knew I'd opened the floodgates for myself. 18 months later, I ended up with panic attacks, panic disorder. My football career went under. Neil Warnock stayed with me, and he signed me at Sheff U, but I was on meds then. They threw me on medication. Everything was slower, you know, and I knew I started to on the decline. Hence, how I ended up going to Halifax. And I wasn't right. I tried, but I wasn't right. I was heavily on medication then, unbeknown to you.
Yeah, no, I would never know.
No. So that was
it's amazing how our human can hold and harbour so much trauma.
That's right.
And the outside world have no idea.
No idea.
You know, and it's like so many find it that, you know, significant that they have to take their own lives. You know, obviously suicide's at highest rate ever between the ages of 30
it's like me, you know, it's in my book, but in the book is, you know, half of it was taken out. But, you know, I cannot tell you how many times, not just, oh, I'm going to do it, actually did it.
Being close then.
I've had pipe in the car.
Wow.
Woke up, why am I still here? I've had ropes in a tree. Snap, why has that happened? Not just once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. So now I think, well, I'm here for a reason.
Definitely you are.
I've been there. And I know what it's like to actually have that feeling of not wanting to be here. That isn't a feeling of selfishness. And people will say that have survived it or had a near-death experience. That's not a saying of selfishness, oh, woe is me. That's where there is nothing else. You cannot see life any further. So these people that say it's very selfish to do that, I get that. But I also know that blank feeling when there is nothing else, not even your family, your kids, your wife, and people are a split second, it's gone. I was fortunate that I'm still here because I'm here to live tell the truth. But there's many, there's some that do mistakenly, it is a cry out. But those that, it is true.
It's at the biggest rate ever, isn't it? Suicide for men.
Yes. Yeah.
Did you go down the route of drinking and drinking a lot of alcohol to try and numb the anxiety and stuff? Was that happening throughout your playing career as well?
No, not in my playing career. I'd say that happened when I'd tried everything in 2003 when I was in the police, and I tried to sue Crew because I wanted it out. But I was a police officer then.
I forgot to mention that you were a police officer, obviously, before. Oh, was you the police? You got into the police after football then?
Yeah, straight after. And I wanted to help people. Yeah. And that's the only reason I got
That's an achievement in itself to get in the police.
Well, I got in all three. I got in the fire service, the police, and the prison service.
Amazing.
The worst mistake I made was joining the police.
Right.
I should have joined the fire or prison service.
Okay. Why would you say that were a mistake?
Because of 13 years in there, I got to see an awful lot how the police work.
Right. Is that how long you was in the police? 13 years?
Yeah. And I saw a lot.
Wow.
And I saw how they worked.
Yeah.
And it wasn't of essence of what my morals are and high grounds, but it is what it is. And in 2003, I even this is truth. When it comes down to the police about how they're supposed to protect people. Also, they've got a duty of care of police officers.
Yeah.
In 2003, I got interviewed because I'd been to see Bennell in prison. When I went to see him in prison, he still told me, he said, "I still love you." And the only reason I was there is because the lawyer said that I had to get a statement off him. Now, he didn't do a statement that he said he'd done. There's another story behind that later down the line, but I know why. I lost the case with Crew because they had 4 barristers. How they had 4, who knows? Who paid for that? I had 1, and it got thrown out of court.
And they're all King's Count or Queen's Counsel.
Oh, you got it.
Best of the best.
The best of the best. It got thrown out, and then I got interviewed by the police to say, "Why have you been to see him in prison?" I explained what had happened to me as a child. Yeah. Wish I hadn't have done, because they had a file on me then about my past. Said, "You'll never have to deal with sexual offences, rapes, anything with paedophilia." In my career, I dealt with every single one of them. Every single one.
So they failed to protect you then, didn't they?
They threw me in there watching videos for 7 hours a day. Go on, Andy. Have that file. Have that file.
Wow. And this is all pre-2016 when you went to the media, isn't it?
Yes.
I can't believe you were in the police for 13 years, Andy. That's unbelievable. That.
Yeah.
So what was different about being in the police and you harbouring all this inside compared to playing in football? Because obviously with football, you're exercising, aren't you? So you got them endorphins and stuff. So that would have helped you. But did you carry on being active when you were in the police?
I did. But then I've mentioned it before. I think the significant trigger point for me was 2013 when Gary Speed took his life.
Right, okay, so that was a divine moment then.
We don't have to go there, but that was a defining moment, and that's when I hit the drink.
Really?
Yeah.
So where was you when you got that news, Andy?
I was watching it on TV. I burst into tears, and it broke my heart because, as I said previously, the amount of attempts I'd made, it brought it right home to me. And it was like looking at myself in the mirror. Because he used to say to me, I look like Gary.
And what was your relationship like with Gary when he played?
I didn't really, because he was older than me.
How old was he? A couple of years, or?
Yeah, I'd say 3.5. So do you know what I said before about the 14-year-old and the 10-year-old? He was the 14-year-old,
and you were coming in as a 10. Wow.
So we didn't really cross paths so much. Do you know what I mean? But I knew the pattern, and I'd put it all together for many years. Gary Speed. So yeah, and after that, I started to have a meltdown, but I didn't tell people. I was just internally going. It was like the same wave that I'd fought in '97, and I could feel it bubbling again, and I was starting to go under, and I was dropping and dropping and dropping. You know, I ended up losing my job in the police, and the job in the police later down the line, I can't say too much on here, but I've got all the evidence that I will go back to Lancashire Police for what they did to me, and how they did it and why they did it. And that's a wrong, because I'm all about rights and truths, and what they did to me was a wrong beyond wrong. But I took it on the chin. And then I'd been seeing a therapist in 2015, and 2016, and basically he turned around and said, you should write a book. And I was just met somebody at Barry who was the program guy, and he said, I know Danny Taylor. Danny Taylor came round to see me, and he goes, have you ever thought about doing a proper story on this? He was dumbfounded. He had to go to bed afterwards. So
this is back, what year is this, 2014?
16.
So this is before you released to the media?
And this is how I released it.
So Gary, you've seen Gary Speed, obviously, he's passed away.
Yeah.
So 13, 14, 15.
Yeah.
Have you just obviously started to drink a lot? And did that affect your police performance? Would you say that affected
13, 14, 15, I was going under, and I told them in there I was going under. They put me on every FLO role, family liaison officer role that you can think of. You're supposed to do 1 a year. I was doing 3 and 4, and I was going under. And then this lady of a job, she took a liking to me, and I crossed the line and ended up sending messages. She became obsessed, and she stalked me. She followed me. She turned up at the house that I was at, and my relationship went under with my ex-wife, and I ended up going over again, Halifax. I met Zelda there, and she posted a picture on Facebook, and this lady sent me an email to say, watch what happens next. She went into a police station on the following day and said that I'd raped her.
Oh my goodness.
So on the Wednesday I go into work, and they arrested me, and I was like, are you for real? There's the truth. Showed the phone. I've crossed the line. I've sent messages, but don't call me a rapist. No. Ever. Passed it all over. They put me on bail for nearly 2 years.
2 years.
18 months. With a job that I'd do in probably 3 weeks, because all the evidence was there. They stretched it out. Never contacted me. Could have been hanging off a tree somewhere. So I lost my job, and that's fine. Didn't want to be in there anyway. But truth's the truth. But after I broke the story, lo and behold, it all popped up again. And it was, Andy Woodward's a rapist. Are you for real? I've got all the evidence.
Like,
I never spoke out. This is the first time I've mentioned it. But I'll tell you what, I will have the truths one day. I've got all the evidence to back it all up. And the people responsible for that should be accountable, because they could have sent me under.
They don't care though, do they? The press?
They don't care. Not just the press. It wasn't the press so much. It was the people behind the press.
I've suffered that myself this last year.
Yeah.
So, Andy, let's go back to 2016.
Yeah.
What was the catalyst moment for you to take that decision to put this out to the mass media? Because that decision, obviously, like you said, was going to... Your mum and dad didn't really know what had gone on, had they, at that point?
They knew in 97.
Did you just get to a point where you thought, I need to do this?
Yeah.
The higher force is telling you to do it?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I am spiritual now, but it's weird. I've had this spiritual stuff going on throughout my life.
Yeah,
but,
I believe in all that as well.
Yeah, and I think what it was for me, I think that the biggest one was... I think the icing on the cake was I'd always been let down. Always put my trust in. and always been let down. Let down by Bennell, let down by the system, let down by the FA, let down by, Justice, 2003, let down, putting my trust in people and organisations and institutes. And I think the icing on the cake was, do you know what? They've just sacked me, and that is wrong. And I'd already speaking to Danny Taylor then about writing stuff and doing things and stuff like that. And I was like, that is a wrong. How much more of my life do I have to get wronged? And why should they all get away with it behind the scenes? Because I'd already put it together about the clubs, City, Crew, all these clubs, the FA, the PFA, who was behind all this. Why had it all happened? And why had nobody been made accountable for it? Even I went for Crew, and lo and behold, 4 barristers out of nowhere. Quash, shut up. Go away. In fact, the judge on the day said, I advise you to go and be a police officer. That's what you're doing now. So go and be a police officer.
Judges are crazy.
He broke my heart. He broke my heart that day. Because all I wanted was justice, that Crew were accountable for what they did. And I just thought, do you know what? I'm going to do it. I want to help people. I want to show people that I've told the truth. Nothing but the truth.
How scared was you? How you must have been thinking.
Yeah. And I thought, you know something?
The ramifications of this.
And at that point, and I gospelly say, and I spoke to my kids, I spoke to my family right before it, and I said to myself, if this it'll go one way. I always get a bit emotional. It'll go one way, or it'll go the other. It'll either go, or I'm out.
Bless you.
That was it.
So what?
It was a Russian roulette.
So, who did you contact then to get that out to the mass media? Was it just one single newspaper?
It was Danny Taylor.
So Danny Taylor helped you collate everything.
I spent time with him, and he was dumbfounded. I only told him a quarter of it. He was dumbfounded, and he said, even when he did the piece, he said, I can only do so much with this. And it went, Guardian, and he rang me in the morning. And the day before, I spoke to Neil Warnock and Stan Ternant. And they both said, go for it, Woody. We'll back you all the way. And to be fair, Stan's not really on the front, but Warnock did back me. He backed me the whole way. And I got the phone call off Danny the following morning, and he said, you're trending above Trump.
So what date is this in 2016?
November 2000. It was 16th of November 2016. And I just burst into tears that morning, and I just went, thank you.
Yeah. This must have been a massive relief.
Yeah.
Where was Bennell at this point? Is he still in prison?
No, he's out.
So he were out at this point?
Yeah, he was out.
And were you...
I wanted him put away.
Were you worried at this point of what he was saying? Had that spell been gone? Because obviously, like you said, you were still under his spell.
He'd gone. Yeah, I'd spent 20 odd years of therapy, and that spell had gone.
Yeah.
He didn't have the hold over me anymore. No. And I wanted him gone. And I'd heard reports of him, setting up all sorts of stuff and this, that and the other. And I knew he was in Milton Keynes, and it unnerved me because he would never have stopped. No. And he even called what he'd do. When they caught him, I actually said to people, what he'll do is he'll go in the woods. He doesn't drink, but he'll have alcohol, and he'll have a load of tablets, and he'll say that he was going to kill himself, and he's not right in the head. And lo and behold, they found him in the woods with some vodka and bop. Because I knew him that well. So yeah, I mean that was a start, and it the first week of it, Steve.
Yeah.
Just I was inundated. I was pleading with the police to help me. They weren't helping me. It took them 2 weeks before I got snowed with like that many people going, Andy, and it just went huge. And it went massive. And I think back to it now and how I cope with it, I don't know. Because in the first week as well, I got a Twitter off someone posing to be Barry Bennell, and it was a picture of him. and it was suck on my lollipop and this, that, and the other.
This is just
the sinister side of it.
The sinister side of it, and the trolling side of current social media is horrific. And
the police didn't want to do anything about that either.
No, they won't do anything.
They wanted to do a community resolution. I said, stick the resolution up where you know. Your police investigate it, because I hit the floor when I saw it, because I thought it was him. Don't do that to me. And I pushed it and pushed it and pushed it. And eventually, because I pushed their arm, they did something about it, and they both went to prison for 12 months.
Did they? They actually found the people that did the page?
They did.
And
they didn't want to.
And did you know who they were, or just some random guys?
Random guys from Crew.
Really?
And they threatened me in the box, and they said, "We're coming for you."
So were they Crew fans then? Crew
people, yeah. Whoa. But you see my determination back then.
Yeah.
No, you're not getting away with it, police. A community resolution. What? And it just shows you, doesn't it? The justice did happen, and they got 12 months each. Yeah. And that could have just been them saying sorry to me.
So did they actually go to prison?
Yeah, 12 months. They did 6 months imprisonment.
Right.
Yeah.
Madness.
Yeah. So that started at the very start.
So this is still 2016. It's broke out into the press.
Yeah.
Obviously, you woke up the next day, you're trending.
Yeah.
I mean, how are you coping with that? How did your mum and dad contact you immediately, or did you let them know before?
I let them know just before. And I also, I look back at my dad, and my dad had been diagnosed with motor neurons disease.
Oh, really?
And I wanted to do him proud as well.
Bless him.
I wanted him not to feel guilty.
Yeah.
And I did that because so many parents
Do you think they harboured a lot of guilt then, obviously, once they found out?
Yeah.
Bless them.
Oh, yeah, it broke the heart. My mum now, she's had cancer 4 times, and my dad died. But I was able to give him some peace.
It's just incomprehensible, really, Andy. I mean, so was it just a snowball effect then? Every newspaper picking it up?
Yeah, you name it. And
what are you getting? Are you getting
my first encounter
with TV?
Oh yeah, I mean, I did everything. There were.
I actually remember it. Being on like.
I can categorically say now, sat here opposite you.
Yeah.
The media, there's some good media out there, as in good people, but the media as a whole, the mainstream media, they will abuse you, and spit you right out. And I'm a prodigy of that, and I'll talk about it later. But I'm a prodigy of how they will use you, abuse you, and spit you out. That is a fact.
So did you not get an initial positive? I mean, because sometimes when these scandals arise and they come out in the press, especially like the Me Too movements and with Harvey Weinstein,
they contacted me.
They seem to have got a lot of positive backing from the press. You understand?
In America, yeah.
Yeah, like all over the place. But did you find that you got that, but then it turned a little bit west, say 2017 onwards? Because obviously I know you got shut down and silenced and stuff.
When I started getting silenced, it all sort of turned. But the initial thing, if you think about it, because I went global and I was on Andy Gray's, Dubai TV. I was on TV in France, Germany, Iceland, Norway, every country. That's just Europe-wise. Then I was live on TV in Colombia, Argentina, America, every country you can think of. And it became bigger, and then HBO Sport contacted me from New York. We want to do a show with you, Andy. It was, look, Andy, do this, Andy, do this, Andy. And I just wanted the story out as big as I could, because I also knew that those in power, the FA, the PFA, you name it, however level it went, I had to make it bigger than them. So I was like spinning plates. I was like, my head was spinning, and I was naive. I was just doing things. I've never got 1 penny for anything I've done. Not one. And I never asked for anything. It was just purely just to get this out, to help people all the way along.
How many players contacted you out of the woodwork then?
Hundreds.
Really?
Yeah.
And what would you say percent of them want to stay anonymous?
Yeah, quite a lot of them. Even just for the Bennell trial, and I think there was 180 89 victims just for him that actually gave statements. So you can times that by so many that didn't. You know, it was. They said it's the biggest scandal that's hit the sport in the world, and it is. And it took one person, and that's me.
Yeah.
And that's no ego. That's no, oh, look at me, because this man here opposite you now has been broken by them. You know, completely broken. But, you know, and my first encounter with the BBC as well, I'll never forget it. It was Victoria, Derbyshire, you know, and I went in the green room and she was lovely and they were like, yeah, let's do this. And I was like, yeah, okay. Put myself on live TV, boom. The following week, obviously Steve Walters and that had all come out. I look back now and I think actually it's quite, if you watch it, you'll see me on the end, from quite strong to start with on my own. And they put me on a sofa with 3 other players. And I'm sat on the end, bawling my eyes out, crying, broken, like a little child. It's good for TV. They won a BAFTA for it. Oh, that's brilliant. Well done. Where's the aftercare? Or where's even a check on my welfare? Didn't even check it before.
There was no aftercare, no.
Nah. Off you go. So that was my first encounter with them, really, where I, you know, and I was doing all these interviews, and then I ended up, I was getting, you know, people going, oh, you need an agent, this, that, and the other, and I was going, I just do what I do, you know. I'm doing this for humanity. I'm doing it for children. I'm doing it for people that have been abused. But I look back on it now, and I wish I'd have got somebody to protect me.
Yeah, because
I was on my own.
So, yeah, I was just going to ask that question. So you were basically taking all these offers in, your phone's red hot.
Yeah.
You know, you're trying to deal with the emotions of you coming out anyway.
Yeah.
That must have been a difficult time.
Yeah, and it wasn't just in this country. I'm talking global. This is worldwide. Magazines in Germany.
How the hell did you get back to everyone then? Were it just a case of your email? Did they email you, or was it all text and phone?
It was emails to Twitter to messages to phone calls. I was doing it all myself. And I think, you know, when I look back on it, you know, my job in the police, I was spinning that many files there, so I could multitask. So I was just going, yep, diary, and just doing them all. And then, you know, moving on from that, it's like I look back on it all now and I think, wow, Andy, what were you doing? It's just like I got asked about the BBC because they were interested in doing a film. And I met a guy called Grant Best who did Rio Ferdinand's documentary with the BBC. He was saying, go BBC. Bad decision.
Bad decision. What for what reason?
Long 4.5 years, 5 years of hell with them. And I've been behind the scenes. And they met me and they were all like, oh, Andy, it's just an amazing story, crying, and we're going to do this for you. And ironically, again, with the universe and how it all works and stuff like that, it's like my dad. So I went, Grant was meeting me, and Colin Barr, who did documentaries of the BBC, who has a company called Expectations, but it's linked to the BBC. The BBC put the name to it and then use another company and all that sort of stuff. And I was just like, I just want my story out there, do a film, get it out there and help people.
What year is this?
2017.
It's just, obviously...
Yeah, so it was just manic.
So what, we're talking a year after the initial announcement to media?
Yeah.
This is where they were talking about the film.
And yeah. And then...
And what other options did you have to do the film apart from the BBC?
Well, it's ironically, as I'm with the BBC, and it's sort of like I started to get, my gut was saying, ain't right this. Because I've started to feel like used and a bit like something ain't right.
In what way though, Andy? What?
Just because, you know...
Was the...
I think looking back, I got asked to do a book. So I wrote the book with Tom. And you think about Duty Care again. I wrote the book with Tom. I spent 3 months with him every day, sat doing a dictaphone. And it's not easy. I mean, like, I've done that much now, and, you know, it's like, but everything I say is authentic, so I just speak. You know, people have said to me, wow, you're amazing. It's just my nature. It's just the way I am. I'm like you. We just, I don't bother about cameras being there. I just speak truth. And but I'd done this with Tom. I spent 3 months every day, and it's grueling.
I can imagine, because you're just basically digging all that trauma up, aren't
Absolutely, every day.
Harvesting that, what's hidden,
Yeah.
back to the surface.
Yeah, but what triggered me most importantly was they turned around and said, you've done your book and it's potentially going to come out in the May of 2018, I think, or 19. And they said, we need to do this screenwrite. We've got a screenwriter, Matt Greenhalgh, and we need to get this off, get it out, as in so we can start doing the screenwrite, because we want it to coincide with the book. So I'm under major pressure. And they said, we want you to start in January. Bear in mind, I'd just done 3 months of emptying my soul, Christmas, and they wanted to start in the January. And I felt pressure. And I thought, I've got to do it again. And I just thought, just do it, Andy. Just get it done.
What, they wanted to harbour up all
the
that?
whole screenwrite again.
But could they not just utilise what you did for the book?
Who knows? But I had to do it again. So I had to spill it all out again. From 9 in the morning till 5 in the afternoon. Just going over and over and over. And one night, I'd done it till 5, and I just thought, oh, I'll go for a drink. Little did I know, I'd gone to the gay village, and I'm sat outside on a wall, and this man, how he appeared or whatever, I don't know, but he touched me up. I'm like, what? So I burst into tears, went into child mode, ran down the road, rang the police, and they picked me up, and they took me home. And I told them, and they said, well, we'll get this counsellor for you, but we need you back in the morning. And their reward for me was to give me a blanket. Wrap that round you, Andy. Let's go again.
They just care about their own agenda, though, don't they?
Yeah.
Obviously.
And I did it. But, you know, I think back to all of that, and I really, you know, I've gone over it and over it. And do you know, when you recite it, you'll have done it yourself.
Yeah.
Why did I make that decision there? My gut was telling me
It can
it's
be
not
painful when you do that.
And it's painful, isn't it?
Yeah, because you like just
And
want to
I've
go in a
gone
time
through
machine
that.
and just stop.
Yes.
That chain reaction of thought. Because sometimes them decisions are just chain reactions to get to a certain point. And
they are. I know. So yeah, I mean that was, you know, it was an experience. You know, I went to Brazil, went to Sao Paulo with Sky, and you know, I'd started doing public speaking, you see, and that's something of a passion of mine, because I know I've inspired that many people doing it.
Yes.
But it was like, I did the Sky News thing, and it was powerful, and it was on Sky News. And I went to Sao Paulo, went to Palmeiras, and I went to Santos. They treated me like a king. They had all the ESPN there, the lot. Pelé had his 58 World Cup players there for me. You know, it was huge. I was at Palmeiras and treated like the most amazing person. But for me, I went to the favela and I changed the law for children out there, and that was an achievement. But I started getting into my public speaking, and I was like going, I like this. I'm inspiring kids.
So you were sort of healing now.
Yeah. And I'd gone to the FA, the PFA and the Premier League, and I'd been working on a holistic solution for the mental health and well-being and getting back into football and doing this talks and you name it. And I wanted to work with them. And naively, like you've done, like what I did, is I handed it over to them. A year later, I'm watching BBC and Harry and William are there doing mental health for football. And I'm like, that was mine.
Yeah.
Not with any ego, not that's mine, just why do that? And after the Sky News thing, I started to see things happening. And I started to watch over my shoulder a bit, and I felt people following me. And it wasn't paranoia, because I'm surveillance trained. And I was like, why are you here? Sorry, Andy.
Right, this is where it gets a bit crazy now. So what, we in 2019?
18,
19. And it's all broke to the mass media, and the back of it, you're public speaking. You you're starting to heal because I should imagine all these interviews were like a form of therapy for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously, you're giving back from your trauma, which is an amazing thing. So we're hitting 2018, 19. Is this when you started to see a little bit of a decline in the backing and positive you were getting from the press and everything else?
Yeah. And
you just said then about you being followed. I mean, what was the first sign of that, and why the hell is that happening though?
I don't know. I'd done the stuff with the where they sort of pushed me aside with the holistic solution. I'd done the Sky News. I'd started ruffle some feathers behind the scenes, because also what else happened is, I'll go back again when I broke the story and I think it was the January of 17 or maybe December. I'd come up with a solution, as in I wanted to do a charity, a foundation for, and I had my vision and I knew what the vision was. And I set it up as Offside Trust, and I had the world press there. And I mean, from CNN to you name it, they filled the whole of the Midland building. And I was live on BBC, live on ITV, live on Channel 4, and it was like huge. And it was a big panel and everything. Prior to that, though, there was 2 former City players that came to see me in the solicitors. How they knew I was there, I'll never know. And they threatened me.
Did they?
They did. They threatened me.
Former City players, as in from your age group?
Yeah, who had come forward as well.
But why would they threaten you, though?
They threatened me, saying, don't bring City into this, firstly, and why can't we be a part of this? And I was popping a diazepam saying, leave me alone, please. I've got to do. So I left and I did the press conference. And then a month later, because of the kind heart that I am, I introduced Steve Walters and Chris Unsworth into it, the goodness of my heart. And I was naive with charities, naive with foundations, didn't know anything. It got set up by the solicitors. Lo and behold, one of the solicitors was involved with the Madeleine McCann.
Right. Okay.
Story behind that, but that's another one.
I can imagine.
But a month later, I was doing a talk in Scotland, and I said I couldn't go to the board meeting. And then I didn't hear anything for 3 weeks. And then my mum contacted me and said, do you realise that you've been removed from the Offside Trust on Company's House? I went, what?
No.
They took me off.
And didn't even...
No explanation. Nothing. So that was something of mine, and I had a huge vision for it. It was gone within a split second. No explanation.
Did you try and contact them to ask them, and they just didn't give you the answers?
No. I never said anything. I didn't want to steal their thunder, what they saw their vision as, but it wasn't mine. And
it's just underhanded, though, that, isn't it?
It's crazy. Very, very. And also, people don't know that at the trial with Barry Bennell, people will watch and see me come out on my own. When I was in that trial, I'm not going to name names, but certain players had said, why is he in here? This is our trial, not his. And refused to allow me to come out in unity about the conviction of Barry Bennell. So I had to face the press on my own. And that felt very lonely, especially when I was the one that broke the story. I was the one that had the balls to speak out, to get justice for all the other players, and to put him where he needed to be. And it was very lonely doing that press conference. And I was on my own. And it was then also that I felt, I'm on my own here. I'm not getting protected. And I'm certainly not getting supported. So you can see the transition.
I can see.
So that's why I've brought that around to show you it's me, myself, and I now.
Yeah.
And I became very vulnerable then.
Yeah.
The BBC had said that they were going to do the film, but then they said they were going to do a documentary.
The film came out though, didn't it?
It did, but they were also going to do a documentary called Football's Darkest Secret. I was told, undoubtedly, I wasn't allowed to be in the documentary, but I was able to do a film. Why can't I be in the documentary? You're not allowed. Okay.
It's just, I can't get my head around how you had all the support from them when you broke the story, and that sort of waned as we've gone on. Yeah. You know, I've seen many of your social media posts over the years where you've been low, you've been low, and you're saying exactly what you're saying now about how you feel like you're being attacked. And
that's just the half of it. And this podcast is just a snippet. Yeah. But I did a certain podcast a while back, and I said there's more to say. But I do believe, Steve, it's like me now, I'm in flow now, you can tell. I've got my grit in there. Yeah. I do believe in synergy, and this is why I'm here now. Yes. Because I'm just going to touch the papers, just show that truth is truth, and truth will come out eventually, and that's a wrong. And if people had known then, or the media, I could have gone out on that conviction on that day, and I could have blew the lid off so much. But I kept my dignity. I kept my moral high ground that wasn't the place. That would have gone worldwide, because I could have said so much more about what went on in that trial, so much more about what went on with Offside Trust and all the truths and all the stuff about me being a rapist, etc. But I chose to keep that shut. Keep my dignity, because I know that the time will come when that comes out properly.
So it's a little bit like pre-2016 then, this, isn't it? So you've got a lot more to speak about. Yeah. And you're just obviously picking the right time to blow the lid on that.
Absolutely.
When do you think you're going to be ready to do that?
Along this path that I'm going to get aligned with you. Yeah. You've got your own story and your own path. And I believe at some point it will come.
So let's go back to when you believe you were getting followed and stuff. Let's go into 2020. Obviously, pandemic's hit. Yeah. What's it been like for the last 4 years? Up to now?
I could write 3 books.
Really?
Yeah. I'd say, the other thing as well is, all this, there's conspiracy theories out there, isn't there? And then there's truths and what I've witnessed. And the truths that I've witnessed, there's no doubt about it that I was certainly silenced. There's no doubt about it I was ostracised. There's no doubt about it that I wasn't protected. And there's no doubt about it there's somebody higher, or some people higher, that have been involved in that around me. Because it's like I said to somebody the other day, and everybody says to me that are close to me, they turn around and say, you'll have your day. The truth will come out, because they should never have treated you like that. And, when it comes down to it, how can a person that breaks the biggest story in the world, in the sport, and the gymnasts in America contacting me, the Me Too campaign, I had people all over the world. How can somebody that did that become not only a nobody, but disappear off the face of the earth? Who's written a book and done a film, and would not entertain me to who was highly, I met Greg Clark, and also, Tracy Crouch, the MP, said to me, oh, Greg's going to give you a job. When I met him in the Malmaison and I put the recording button on the table and I said, I'm recording you, he absolutely cacked it and turned around and went, can we record as well? And he turned around to me and said, I can't give you a job, Andy. What about the other players? I went, well, what about them? We can all, but let me in. Yeah. No, I can't. Really? I'm an intelligent man, and I've got the book, I've got the T-shirt, I've got the lot. They wouldn't even entertain me. So it says it in itself, doesn't it? And but the last 4 years, I'd say, in 2019, I had a bad experience, and I will reveal that as well, with an ex-player who I got death threats. Really? Oh, yeah.
Is this ex-player somebody that has also, you know...
No. That's something separate. Right. And truth is truth. And again, I've got evidence. Evidence gatherer, ex-detective. It's all there. But then in 2017, I'd been doing a project with a lady called Kelly Walsh. And we ended up being good friends. And it was to help children. And then in 2020, I met her again. And it was again the universe, because I'd gone through a terrible experience. And she was very spiritual. And she said she'd got some type of download and to contact me. I went, I can't believe you contacted me. And she came and picked me up. And something happened there I had a spiritual awakening, which was phenomenal. Never seen anything like it. I'm facts, I'm all about truth. And this awakening happened. Anyway, there's a long story there in those 3 or 4 months that I got to find out that she'd been investigating her dad's death, that they said it was suicide, and she not only believed, but she knew that it wasn't, and she started messing with some serious people. And on the 27th of February in 2021, 3 weeks prior to that, the BBC had brought Football's Darkest Secret to... They found out where we were living, and they asked us to watch it. And I watched it, and...
So the documentary actually went ahead then?
Oh, yeah. Wait until you hear what happened.
And did you have any input in it?
Oh, that's the other thing as well. The input. So, when I told you that I couldn't be in it?
Yeah.
When it was COVID, lastminute.com, when they were going to do the whole documentary, they ring me up out of the blue. Andy, we've got no documentary without you. Can you do it? In a studio, freezing cold, on a mirror, because of COVID. They'd all had their interviews in houses. They interviewed all the families. Never interviewed my mum or my family. And I felt sorry for...
It just doesn't make sense, though, does it?
No, it doesn't, does it?
Especially when you're the one that's brought the story.
Exactly.
You've given the most detail about how it's all happening.
Yes.
I've had the strength and courage to bring that out, to help all these others.
Yes.
It just doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make sense, does it?
No.
You'd want me to be integral with that documentary.
You should be looked after and given help above and beyond. Like you say, given a job in the FA, ability to grow the charity, but I don't understand why it's all been taken away. So there's definitely alternative
and the other thing as well is
motives behind the scenes there then, isn't there?
I was the whistleblower, but then also my family were the most integral part of Barry Bennell and the football. My sister marrying him. They never even asked to speak to my mum. My mum's she's a fiery woman. She's had cancer 4 times, but now she wants me to get justice. She says, you have been wronged by those institutes. You've been wronged by everybody. My son should not have suffered the way he has. And she said they'd never asked me. They never asked my sister. But they wanted to do a last-minute interview. And I was put on the spot. But me being me, if it was to help people out there, then I'll do it. So I did that. So they brought the tapes around in 2021. And 27th of Feb, Kelly left me. And she said, don't worry, I didn't feel that she was safe to go where she was going. And she never came home.
Sorry, Andy, is Kelly your wife?
She was my partner at the time. I said that was my friend, but we'd ended up being partners.
Okay.
And, she was investigating some very serious stuff. I don't know yet.
So do you reckon she left to protect you?
I don't know yet. But they had, and I had no input in, my whole world fell apart. I was in Halifax, living in Halifax, of all places.
Yeah.
Again.
So you were living in Halifax in 2021?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. You see the universe.
Yeah.
Powerful stuff, innit?
Yeah. And so she left, and obviously you suffered the heartbreak of her leaving.
Yeah, and do you know something else as well is that
I mean, that alone, I can't imagine, Andy.
Me being in the police,
feeling of that
is it's an absolute rule that the last person to see somebody alive has to give a statement. Have I given a statement to this date? Have I been asked to give a statement? No. The next I heard of anything to do with Kelly was 2 police officers turning up at my mum's late last year and issuing me with a summons to attend the coroner's court.
Oh, come on. So she actually died?
Yes.
Oh, Andy, I'm so sorry to hear that.
And the inspector on the night when it happened, my whole world caved in. And I looked up and I thought, I am cursed.
Oh, man.
But, yeah, my whole life caved in.
Oh, bless you.
Because I'd had enough then.
Yeah.
But it was only late last year. I didn't have any answers. There was a coroner's investigation. Did I get asked to provide any evidence or statement or what she was doing prior to it, fighting to get justice for her dad? No. And they threw me in the coroner's court for 4 hours. And her mother tried to say that I was responsible for her death.
Why though?
And that broke me.
I can imagine, man. Sorry to hear that.
And then they put in the paper that it was a strange relationship we had. What? Because she was spiritually gifted. One day I got justice there. You see, that's raw for me.
I know. I can imagine.
Because I was wronged again. For no fault of my own.
Bless you.
And I know the law, and I should have given a statement on that day. But what actually happened was, football darkest secret, the BBC didn't even contact me to see if I was well enough for it to go ahead. I was grieving the loss, and they fired it on the front of, they put it on the BBC. And then 4 weeks previous to that, I was watching it with Kelly. That was a lot to take. Did they ask me if they could do it? Did they ask me if I was well enough? I was grieving, don't get me wrong, but I had good people around me who were looking after me. My friend was looking after me. She allowed me to stay at her house. And 24 hours after the last episode, where I was absolutely heartbroken because I watched it, and I'd watched it previous, and they just thrown me in here, there and everywhere because it was Andy Woodward. And all them were in the houses with the families and everything. And I went, you BBC bastards, you've done me over. And 24 hours later, my friends out of nowhere, 7 police officers and 3 doctors turned up at the house, and for no reason, they said that I was psychotic, and they threw me in a mental hospital. Section 2. It was like the Matrix.
Really? So that was just out of the blue, Andy, yeah?
And when I rang my sister, they had 4 police officers in a row. They searched upstairs, and they had no right to. I heard them searching. What they were searching for was well gone. And they threw me in there. And during the time I was in there as well, it was Kelly's funeral, lo and behold. Did they ask me if I wanted to go, or anyone? Did they ask me for a statement about what happened to her? No. I was locked away in there.
How long was you in there for?
he kept me in there for 2 weeks.
What was that like, Andy? Obviously,
horrific. I was the most sane person, and I won't mention the doctor's name, but within 5 minutes he diagnosed me with psychosis. I said, I'm not psychosis. I'm sane. Don't do this to me. And he threatened to inject me. And I just got my head down. It was like being in prison. And I was seeing people come in and, you know, being diagnosed with all sorts. And, you know, I saw people being injected in there, which I thought was only something of the 70s. And I watched this guy, and he just sat in there, and he said, I'm sane. My family have put me in here. There's nothing wrong with me. Please let me leave. And they locked him in a side room, and I watched him in the corridor, and he was pleading with me, and I couldn't get in to help him. And the next minute, the nurses rounded him in a circle. It was like hyenas. We got him on the floor and banged him with an injection, and he was just lay there on the floor, and they left him there for about 7 hours. So I saw a lot of things in there. I pleaded my sanity. The nurses in there all said, why are you in here? I said, because whoever's put me in here have put me in here. I was the only person in there that wasn't allowed visitors, wasn't allowed to the shop. I had to have a nurse go and get my stuff from the shop. Yet people that were on high alert, people, were allowed to the shop. I wasn't allowed out of the building.
It's just, yeah, I mean, were they trying to top you up on medication all the time then?
Well, they're trying to give me medication, but it's funny, it's like I challenged the doctor the following week, and it all should be written down. And by the way, it's 3.5 years and I still haven't got my notes.
No.
They refused to give them. And I've tried everything. But
there's obviously some.
I challenged the doctor.
There's obviously something higher at play here, isn't there? It's just there in black and white.
And the PFA is supposed to be a union to help people in crisis. They turned around and said there's no beds in the country. Lo and behold, on the Friday, when it was my appeal on the Monday, because I had a solicitor who said she was going to fight it to the wall because it was a Travis of justice. It's like, what? On the Friday, they found a bed for me. And I was only allowed to be released on the bravado that I went as a voluntary to a hospital in Marylebone. And the PFA were prepared to pay £8,000 a week for me to stay there for 3 weeks. Not a chance. I did the right thing, what they said, and I went and stayed for a week, and then I got out of there. But they were prepared to pay that amount of money for someone that's sane, for someone that didn't need, and then they come up with a care plan for me, and then there's more, and there's more. But I got out. And I proved my sanity.
So, when you got out, what was that process? Did they just sign you off, or did you just say?
No, I was a voluntary, so I signed myself out.
Yeah.
And then I requested, because also, bear in mind, my film was being developed at that time. Right. I'd already signed a contract, so they were committed. I think, you know, when I look back on it all, if I'd have been insane, none of that would have happened, would it?
No. And what input did you have on the film? Did you have to approve the actors and?
Yeah. Well, not so much. When it comes, we're coming to an end now, aren't we? But I tell you something, the screenwrite, and I've watched what Matt Greenhouse says, and he says that he did 80% of the screenwrite. Do you want to bet on that?
Yeah.
I did it, and not only that, the script got changed that many times because I demanded it to be changed because it was so wrong, and it was painting a really bad picture of me, and I wanted truth out there. And Nick Rowland was a saving grace. He's the most beautiful soul you can meet, and he was the director for a film called Calm with Horses. That was an Irish one. And the instant I met him, I connected with him. Very spiritual man. And he said that he was on a flight to Mallorca to do a film, and it got grounded. The following day he got my script, and he said I had to do it. and he worked with a guy called Cy Bell, who did Peaky Blinders, and he called in that many favours to get the lighting and get it right, that the budget was that bad that he had to get favours in to make it what it was made. Yeah. He said he's never seen anything quite like it, what the BBC had done. But he made something out of nothing, if that makes sense.
Where they could, I mean, they've got untapped resources to be able to throw
and
money
budgets.
at it. Yeah, and budgets. So I've still not seen the film yet. So for the viewers watching and listening, where would you say is the best place to go and watch the film? And obviously get your
story, isn't
get
it?
your book.
Oh yeah, they promised me it was going to be BBC One. They promised me it was going to go world, because I wanted it to go world.
Yes.
To reach out to as many people that can associate with it, that can learn from it, that can be an education, that can, help people. They put it on BBC iPlayer for 12 months and it was gone, never to be seen again.
Seriously? So it's not on
when it should be.
It's not on the main BBC.
No, it's gone.
That says it all, then, doesn't it?
It's
really?
Gone. Yeah, I put my whole life on the line. I put my whole life into it, and it should stay there or be given out to people to educate people and support people with mental ill health. Those people that go down those roads, that's what it was, the purpose for it. But no, it's gone. And I had to fight that hard to actually get a copy of it for myself. I had a record label.
Don't make sense.
I had a record label with a New York record label and a London one. And this is what broke my heart, because they declined to have it or be a part of the film. And only when I challenged them in the BBC in London, why have you done that to my dad? Because it was for my father's charity, motor neuron disease. Their reply was, oh, we didn't know it was for your dad. Irrespective of that, if it's for a charity, there's nothing that I was going to make from it. They refused to do that. And the record label were going to do it so my family had something to resemble my dad as well. To have a history of what I did for my family and my dad. No.
So the people watching this can't even watch that film anywhere then at the minute?
The only place they could watch it was on the pirate sticks and things that are out there.
See, that's alarm bells straight away, isn't it, really? For such, I mean, I know one of the...
For a film,
the young kid off Shameless is the main character of yourself, isn't it?
That's right, yeah, Gerard, yeah.
Is that his name?
And they're all wonderful people, Jonas Armstrong.
Yeah.
He said to me when he played him, he said he had to fly to India after it. He said it broke him. Such a story like that, a true story, based on a true story. All right, it's a dramatisation. But something as impactful as that hit the world, I had Netflix that wanted to do it. Boy, do I wish I'd have gone there. But I've got a bigger story now to tell the truth about that and what happened, and about what happened previous. And most of it wasn't in there.
I don't get it, Andy. I mean, you've got... I think there was a documentary on 3 girls, regarding the Rochdale situation. Now, that's on Netflix.
Yeah.
And it's huge, trending. Obviously, I think it's died down now.
I know.
But I see your documentary or that film being at that level of getting the truth out there.
Absolutely.
Which, it's raw, but there's so many people that'll help. So I don't understand why they would do that.
And why do it to me? What have I done to them?
No.
I tell you what I've done. I stood up to them.
Yeah.
Me, myself, and I.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be, there's many... I know one individual that's just got an award at the EFL for safeguarding children, reading his piece of paper. I don't need to read a paper.
No.
This comes from here. And this comes from here. Because this is intelligent and that's huge. And the truth is the truth.
Yeah.
And I speak from my heart. And I can go and do that. I can go and do it worldwide and public speak. You put me in front of 50,000 people. I wouldn't even get nervous like that, because I say the truth and I inspire people, and that's what I want to do moving forward. Gosh, they've took me to limits like have you.
Yes.
I've been where in the last year, like 12 months ago, I didn't want to be here again. You've crushed me. You've defeated me. You've done me.
You're a warrior, Andy. You really
You've
are.
done me.
You're an inspiration.
But I've come back.
You have come back already. I can see it in you today. You're looking great.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to seeing what's coming.
Yeah.
How are you feeling today, and what's your prospects going forward? What's
I think my prospects going forward, because you know my intelligence, you know what I've done. I've already done me pre-research, because I contacted those so-called friends in the media.
Yes. Those
friends that didn't want it. They wanted every piece around the world, etc. Top ones have turned around and said, "No, our bosses won't touch it." I wonder why. So my vision is somehow, some way, somewhere, like somewhere over the rainbow, the light will flash and the door will open. And once that door's open, it ain't getting shut this time.
There's no chance of going to Netflix and Amazon and stuff now?
Yeah, there's those platforms. And
do you go to them with that film and say, can you show this?
Yes, that's what my vision is. Yeah. Not this, but do something that is far bigger, reaching far more people with far more truths in it, that will blow people's minds to what actually happened. That's powerful.
Of course it is, yeah.
And that's powerful for those institutes that think it's okay to degrade, destroy, and because they've got power, and because I was on my own, well, I'm not on my own anymore. I've got somebody in Ireland that is prepared to spill the beans or flick the lid on something huge about Man United.
Wow.
And that man's a warrior, and it deserves to get out there, the truths. There's no club, there's no human that is bigger than the truth. And that's where people are turning now, and they're starting to come out, and people are en masse are coming out. Because I was on my own, and I have a saying, like-minded souls collaborate together to change the world. Not one person can do it, but in a collaboration of people on the same wavelength, the same frequency. I had my spiritual lightning. The universe is powerful. The universe is more powerful than any human. So you can be Putin, or you can be Trump, or you can be just me or you. They're no difference to us. No different.
No.
They might have power in those people behind them, but many people that get on this become more powerful than them.
Do you reckon there's a lot of people that are worried, Andy, about this truth that's been hidden?
Yes, and rightly they should be.
They're any time this could blow, to be honest, and they're living day by day thinking,
Yes, and I know they're there,
yeah.
And that goes right the way across the board, because the thing is, they thought they'd destroyed me.
And what we're talking about, these individuals, are they quite high profile?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's some that are there. There's one that currently right now is in a very high position within the England team. I know truths on him.
Yeah.
They thought I'd gone away. No. It's my mission. And those people that watch this, I've got my grit back.
And that's respect to you, Andy, because like I said, all this is going to help other people that are watching this who've suffered their own trauma and afraid. Yeah. I mean, what would you say to anyone listening and watching this who's, suffered the same trauma, and obviously not the same, but similarities, and they're feeling scared and they don't really want to talk out?
Yeah, I mean,
what advice would you give them? I
think the biggest advice is that each individual situation is their own situation. I've never said to anyone, "Oh, you've got to speak out, you've got to talk about it, you've got to do this." And it makes me laugh, a lot of these therapists, and they think they've got PhDs and all sorts behind them. But when you've lived it and you know it, and you're intelligent enough to know and see the whole picture, there is no right or wrong. There's no right or wrong time. There's no right and wrongs with it. You do what's comfortable or you feel. Fear is the biggest part of trauma. And getting over that fear and getting through that fear is then one step closer to being able to speak about it.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. And there's no right or wrong time. Some people take it to the grave, and that's their own free will. We all have free will. But the short term of doing it can have an effect on you. But the longevity of that, with support and protection around you, you can come through that. It is a life sentence. I'll never forget the videos, ever, ever, ever. But I can detach my emotion with that. I'm re-traumatized in the last 8 years. So I have to go through it again. As you saw before me getting upset, my emotion is attached to that trauma. But I'll get there. And that's all I'd say to people. And keep your faith, as in, I'm not religious. Don't believe in any of that. What I do believe in is the universe and that spiritual side of it. Because we're here connected.
We're all connected.
We are connected.
That's a fact. That's quantum physics for you.
It is.
And that's why I believe in
proven.
Energies and the law of attraction. Obviously, I'm a massive believer in all
huge.
Yeah.
And there's no coincidences that I'm back here at Halifax, back here with you.
Yes.
And the amount of things that I see is phenomenal. Yeah. And my number is number 4. Yeah. And I see 4 everywhere I go. I played at number 4 at Halifax. Lived at 14, lived at number 4, lived at number 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4 throughout my life.
Yeah.
So it's significant with that number.
Amazing. Obviously, we're going to come to a bit of a conclusion now. So, I just want to thank you for coming today, Andy, and being so brave and speaking out again, because I think this is going to help so many people watching. Yeah. It's a very raw issue. It's a very stigmatised, brushed under the carpet issue, which we've just talked about, the BBC acting the way they've done. Hopefully you can continue to be the warrior that you are, to inspire others that, the truth needs to be out there. I think there's massive things coming for you with regards to your plans. Do you want to give us just a rundown of what you're planning for the next 6 to 12 months? And
who knows?
Are you feeling?
I'm feeling ready.
You feeling
to go.
a better place now?
Yeah. Oh yeah. As you can see me, that's why I've done this now.
I can feel that when we met outside your auras.
Yeah. It's definitely there. It's come back. It's like
and that's good.
And you're a warrior too.
Yeah.
And you've had your adversities and things. And you know something? We're so similar in so many ways. What we've been through. But we're fighters and we will fight through.
100%.
And that door will open, and it'll open for you, and you'll go back and more to what you did before.
Yes.
Because wrongs are wrongs. And you make it right yourself.
Yes.
And we'll get this and we'll do it. And anyone that views it, this is the first of many for yourself, but also for me.
Yes.
Because I will get the story out there. Somehow.
So, Andy, listen, we're going to book a part 2 and then maybe 6 months, 12 months down the line, can't we? Obviously, once you're starting to get out there again, then, you'd be up for that.
Yeah, defo. 100%.
So, I think we'll conclude at that. Really happy with that interview, Andy.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much for your time.
No.
And I look forward to seeing you again soon, my friend.
Cheers, mate.